By the end of this video, you'll know how to turn any D&D scenario into an awesome, cinematic, and interactive experience that will have your players on the edge of their seats. Welcome creators, I am Holistic Dungeon Master, and I help DMs master their craft with helpful videos like this one, where we learn about skill challenges and how they are the secret sauce needed to turn boring scenes into nail-biting, collaborative storytelling. If you're enjoying my content so far, then please like the video, crit the subscribe button and notification bell. Now let's get rolling! I bored the 9 hells out of my party the first time they needed to travel long distances. It was my first time ever running D&D, and we were playing Lost Mine of Phandelver. Things were going pretty decently. I had a great group that were very forgiving with me as I learned the ropes of D&D 5e, and I was really starting to understand the module, its locations, and its NPCs, and story overall. But then the gang decided that they wanted to up and go right to Neverwinter. It's not in the module. It's not in the module. It's not in the module. That was a 3 to 4 day journey from Phandalin. Luckily for me, they had decided this at the end of the session, so I had a week to prepare, but I was in full-blown panic mode, and I was wishing that I had a month to prepare instead. So I did what any new DM would do. I consulted the Dungeon Master's Guide. Link in the description. It did indeed have rules for travel, and I learned them along with how often to check for random encounters. I had a bunch of stuff prepared, and finally game night was upon us. I felt prepared, I honestly did, and my anxiety had kind of transformed into a nervous eagerness to see how this first long journey would go down for my party. I ran it exactly as I'd planned it, based on the rules as written, laid out in the DMG, and it was horrendously boring. Horribly boring. Sure, my party liked the novelty and feeling of venturing out into the wild and dangerous world at first, but after the second random encounter with not much happening along the way, it was starting to become tedious. I could really feel that at the table. A whole ass session was dedicated to this, and by the end of it, the party were just glad to have arrived at their destination, Neverwinter. Indeed, that is what they were most excited about for this session, arriving at the jewel of the Sword Coast, and I didn't cop that. That's what they were excited for, not rolling for random encounters and fighting beast after beast and bandit after bandit. Something needed to change, and after watching 2 absolutely excellent videos from MCDM, Matt Colville is a wonderful game designer and dungeon master, more specifically, I watched the one about making travel interesting and another one about a fun little mechanic I will explain in the next part of the video. I discovered a way to combine these 2 pieces of advice that evolved into a method I use to turn almost any scenario into an adrenaline-fueled, collaborative storytelling experience, where every player gets to do something awesome. Doesn't that sound cool? I do this by using what that other video was about: skill challenges. Before we delve deeper into the video, I'd just like to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. You guys are helping me make better content for this channel and beyond, so thank you so much for supporting. More information about how you can support the channel at the end of the video. Skill challenges aren't in the DMG or the Player's Handbook, at least not in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They are, however, in Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. This is where Matt Colville pulls them from. He's played all of those editions and he pulls the best out of each of them. How they work is pretty simple. At the start of your scenario, have everybody roll initiative. On each player's turn, they can use a skill that they are proficient in to improve the situation. For example, the Barbarian could use their athletics to smash through a wall during a daring escape. The Bard uses their history skill to recall the layout of the sewers so that they can break into a guardhouse from below. They succeed in their skill challenge when they meet a certain number of successes before they meet a certain number of failures. Sounds easy enough, right? But there are some important considerations. Players can't use a skill that they've already used in this scenario. They've got to use the next one on their proficiency list. Players can burn a spell slot to gain an automatic success, but their use of the spell must make sense in context. You can absolutely say no if it doesn't. And if they fail, there must be a significant consequence. Maybe they take a huge amount of damage. Maybe an NPC gets killed. Maybe they lose credibility. Maybe they are arrested. Maybe it triggers a combat they would much rather avoid. That's it. It seems simple enough, and I'll give some examples on how you can use this for almost any, and I mean it, any scenario later in the video. But it's that simplicity that makes it an extremely potent catalyst for creating exciting scenarios, where each member of your party gets to flex both their character's strengths and their creative muscles. These bare bones mechanics mean that we can customize skill challenges to our needs and those of our party. Let me show you. There is so much we can do to bend and shape skill challenges to our needs and to the needs and more specifically wants of our party. Each time you run a skill challenge, you can make it a little bit different. You can adjust the numbers of successes and failures to change the difficulty of your skill challenges. For example, 3 successes before 3 failures would be pretty easy, but 6 successes before 2 failures, that would be pretty difficult. And each turn you can increase or decrease the DC based on character successes or failures. Or maybe it's always increasing on every turn or perhaps even every round if this scenario is getting more dangerous over time, right? It just depends on what is happening. Maybe a building is burning down, or maybe water level is rising in a chamber they are trapped in. Or the other way, right? Maybe your party are working together as a team using their skills to kind of aid each other. Then you could decrease the DC over time to reward them and kind of give this mechanical bite to their teamwork and cooperation. You should reward that in your players. Maybe someone failed a DC by a lot, and now this creates a complication that gives the next player disadvantage. Or you could turn that around for critical or massive successes above the DC, giving them advantage. These are just a few ways, but I'm sure that you're cooking up a new way to customize it right now. Leave those insights in the comments down below. We'd all love to see them. Not only is it a wonderfully flexible mechanic because of how we can customize it, but also because we can use a skill challenge to make almost any scenario or encounter more thrilling. Let's talk about how we can apply it to anything. In D&D 5e, let's face it, let's be real here. There are some pretty janky rules as written mechanics for certain things, alright? They just did not put as much care and attention into some of these rules. Well, if you don't like them, just replace it with a skill challenge. Is travel too boring for you or your party? Skill challenge. Are chase mechanics too messy for you to track? Skill challenge. Even some combat scenarios could be replaced with skill challenges if you feel it would bog down a well-paced session. But what about stuff there are no mechanics for, right? Escaping a burning building, stopping an evil cult's summoning ritual, salvaging a heist that has gone horrifically wrong as they always do. Skill challenge. Everything. You really can use it for almost anything, and it will of course depend on what parts of the game your party loves or hates. Keep the ones they love, skill challenge everything they hate. But no matter what it is, you can mold it to fill in the gaps left by the rulebooks. But we've not yet explored exactly why these can be so fun, engaging, cinematic, and interactive for your party. I've not yet told you why your party are going to fall in love with these skill challenges and thus your games. The key to unlocking the potential of skill challenges is that they are truly collaborative mechanics. The magic is that your players must come up with creative ways to use their proficient skills. This can be tough if their skills don't exactly fit the scenario, but this hugely encourages them to flex those creative muscles. We want to encourage that as much as we can. But not only that, you can let your party, and you should let your party, narrate something that happens during their turn that they can overcome with their skills. Now they are coming up with the adventure with you. Everyone at the table is, in fact. The only restraint is that it must make sense. It also gives each player character a chance to shine. Everyone gets a turn using the skills that their character excels at. It just shines that spotlight on how awesome their character is, and it lets them use that to help the party. And for those of you who haven't seen my video on making player characters feel important, there you go. Because that's what it does. It makes them feel important in your game. Their player characters important. That is a feeling we want to cultivate. This is now a majorly collaborative scenario, right? Your players are crafting the narrative of it with you. The story beats and everything, the hope, fear cycles, everyone's involved. And not only that, but they are also getting to show off how cool their PCs are. It's a win, honestly. Every turn, something is happening and everyone gets a chance to shine. But we don't have to stop there. No, we can go deeper. Over the years, I've made some important changes to this mechanic based on both my own experience and player feedback. And some of these have hugely improved my skill challenges. Let's have a look at some, shall we? Every other turn or round, it's up to you, add a complication, some obstacle that the party can overcome. Yes, the party are allowed to come up with their own, but you should introduce some chaos into this as much as you can. An escape tunnel beginning to collapse, a passerby calling attention to them when they try and sneak up on someone, or the rushing rapids carry their out of control craft towards some sharp rocks. Every action sequence in a movie or a book or a game or whatever, they have a string of problems to be overcome. come. And some of these problems are actually consequences of having solved the last problem. See, there's this chain. So use this in your skill challenges and make them cinematic and endlessly engaging. I've started letting players use their NPC abilities and traits to gain automatic successes like magic users too. This is feedback from a player and I thought it was a very good idea, so I do it now and I'm including it in this video because I think you should use it too. Otherwise, magic users are a little bit imbalanced, right? Especially if they have a bunch of spell slots they can just turn into a success. Martial classes should get the same advantage with their traits and abilities. If it costs a resource, let them burn it to gain a success, but it must make sense. That's the only restraint here. Also, finally, if some players, and this has happened a lot for me, some players may struggle to come up with ways to use their proficient skills when the pressure is on, right? It's their turn and everything's quite cinematic and fast. Then what you should do is introduce a complication that they could feasibly overcome with their skill set. I hope that you are starting to see just how powerful and wonderfully adaptable skill challenges can be. Use one of these in your next session and just watch how much more thrilling and cinematic it makes it. Just remember to adapt them to the needs of your party and your games will become infinitely more memorable to them. And what else makes our games highly memorable? Relatable NPCs, of course. I've written a bunch of system-neutral, story-focused, archetypal NPCs with no stats or mechanics or anything like that, straight from the depths of the human psyche that your players won't help be able to relate to on a deep, subconscious level. I'm giving them away for free and you can find them down in the description below. Also down in that wonderful description, you should find the link to my wonderful community Discord server, where we can hang out, discuss the game, and meet other DMs and players who just love playing D&D. But we also have events, we have improv events, we have live prep sessions, so you can get an idea of how I prep my games, and we're going to be streaming some games in that server soon. So jump in and join the fun. You've heard a lot from me, now I want to hear from you. In fact, we all do. Please get typing down in the comments below and let us know, what do you plan to use these skill challenges for? Can you think of different ways to customize them? Do you hate this idea and do you think skill challenges are trash? Let us all know your opinion so we can foster this community of DMs who help each other hone their craft. If you've watched this video up until now, then you are the DM I make these videos for, someone who is truly dedicated to becoming the best DM they can be. So thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can check out the link to my Patreon down below. I take my Patreon's recommendations for videos heavily into account, so if you really want to tailor this channel to your Dungeon Master needs, then by all means, subscribe to my Patreon. But if you'd like a lovely free way to support the channel, then please like the video, crit the subscribe button and notification bell, and remember, this world needs good DMs.